Hey team, this is Grant David Collins, and welcome to Basement Philanthropy, a place for people who do not want to wait until they're rich or retired to create meaning, impact, and connection with their time, talents, and money, regardless of the amount. On this episode, we have a very special surprise, so let's get started. So this episode of the podcast is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a little shorter, and in some ways, it has taken a couple years to create the content that we are going to be talking about today. And don't worry, we will get to the surprise. I'm not going to lead you on and stay talking for hours and hours until we get to where we want to be around this. But I want to give some background and framework around where we are headed so that you can be all caught up to speed. And where I want to start is you would think that the phrase giving is a skill, or that giving is a skill set, would be a common way to approach helping others. I mean, people receive bachelor's, master's, and even PhDs in this subject. And also the nonprofit community is full of professionals that make giving their career and life's mission. But what I found is that when you talk to the average person about this being a concept, you get a very different response than you would think. Now, I do this all the time, and 9 times out of 10, when I talk to people about this subject, it is a fairly significant light bulb experience for those that I talk to. Now, my running theory around why this is so surprising to people is that in some ways, giving feels so natural to who we are as humans. And in all reality, as we've talked about in a previous episode, and before you ask, I will link the episode in the description, the desire to act altruistically is human by nature. And this is even before taking into account the major influence that religious beliefs have played in spreading giving across many cultures and many nations. Helping other people seems so natural that it feels more like walking than it does reading or learning how to play the piano. But if you've ever spent any time around someone who has suffered from a stroke or helped a newborn baby take its first steps, I guess it wouldn't be newborn if it was taking its first steps, but you get what I mean. You'll know that the things that feel the most natural are often very complex in nature. And I think that the distinction that is important to focus on here is that while the desire to give is human by nature, the skill is not. And this is often what gets people into trouble. They believe that it's, quote unquote, the thought that counts, when thoughts are almost never what actually counts. It's actually what we do and its resulting impact that actually means something, especially when it comes to helping people. I mean, can you imagine how crazy our world would be if thoughts were really all that counted? I mean, just go out and succeed in the stock market, and all you have to do is just think about it, and bam, untold riches. Or let's say someone needs open heart surgery, and instead of going to a surgeon, they just go to a thinker instead. The very thought of thinking of thoughts like this is laughable, and yet many of us use this exact same excuse in our giving all the time. And the biggest irony of all of this is that if we simply refrain giving as a skill, we would get the results we desire in the first place, instead of having to justify our way around something that didn't turn out that well, which is that we actually made a difference. And actually making a difference is what this podcast is all about. It's why I personally started to learn the skill set of giving, and what drew me to wanting to help others begin to do the same thing in their own lives. So without further ado, here is the surprise that I've been hanging on to. I'm very excited that over the next few weeks, the Basement Philanthropy podcast is getting a new name and a new brand. Basement Philanthropy is becoming Giving is a Skill. And the reason why we are transitioning our branding and the name of this podcast is because giving is a skill is actually what I want to talk about. It's actually what I want this podcast to be known for. And I want the very first interaction that someone has around what we are doing here to connect those two ideas, that giving is a skill. And every time you come back and listen to episode after episode, the first thing you see is a reminder that this whole work is about getting better incrementally over time and building a skill set so that we can make an actual difference in the world around us. I am just so thrilled about really continuing the progression towards making the skill set of giving a little bit more reachable for the average everyday person. I am so excited for the next chapter of this journey, and I hope that you will stay along for the ride. Well, team, that's it for me. Let's go out in the world and create good with our time, talents, and money, regardless of the amount, and realize that we can get better at giving over time if we just see it as a skill set together. Talk soon.